Can you feel it? Spring is officially upon us, so we start this week's Explore Tulsa on the links.
Then the power of communication.
Followed by how to catch the big one.
Plus, remembering one of T-Town's finest.
Hi, I'm Stevie Fernandez.
And I'm Trish Whitmer. Welcome to spring, and thanks for starting it with us on Explore Tulsa.
And spring is good to us on Explore Tulsa because we just hit over 1 million views on YouTube.
That is so awesome, and it means that people all over the world are learning about Tulsa and everyone we have on the show.
Plus, we make it easy for you to be on the show too. Just send us an email with your contact and story ID info to stevie@exploretulsa.com.
Is that how you found out about Jim Ingram and the really neat story of how he started the Little Links Golf Club?
No, I just really love taking the kids out and hitting golf balls around.
I was 14 years old and they were going to amputate my right leg. And so I'd injured it in a lot of sports in junior high school. And so I was in the surgeon's office begging him not to take my leg off. And he told me I had to quit all sports, all football, basketball, running track, everything. I was into all sports. So I was balling and I said, what am I gonna do? All I want to do is play sports. He said, play golf. About a month later, I got a postcard from Tulsa Country Club and they were gonna start a junior golf camp. The result of that is 2 years later, I won the state high school championship. And that summer, my brother, my younger brother, 2 years younger, was the youngest. He beat me in the finals of the state junior championship, and he was 14 years old. I think probably the two of us taught each other. There was no really junior tournaments at that time, and I started one when I was 17 at Tulsa Country Club, and it turned out to be a 3-state invitational tournament. It was just almost impossible for a kid to play golf. They would let us play. Now, I was a state champion and my brother was a state champion. We couldn't play golf on the golf course till after 3 o'clock. And on Saturdays, we couldn't play almost at all. And so that's kind of the way it started. So I came down here, bought this land, and we put a sign out front. It was adults not allowed unless accompanied by junior. And we physically built the golf course ourselves. We provided the labor, we cut the ditches with the irrigation in, laid the sod, did everything except run the bulldozer. But it took us almost 5 years to build it, but during that time we were teaching juniors. Then we opened it up to adults because a lot of people wanted to start playing it. And that's how we got started. And then when Tiger Woods came along in '97, 4 or 5 years later, everybody started realizing that you could learn this game at 2 years old. People brought their kids here from all the country clubs, and we taught them to play. I actually called up a manufacturer and told him to make me a junior grip. I asked him if he'd make them, and he said he didn't know how to, what size he needed. And there was no junior gloves made. And so I laid 6 kids' hands, which I've still got them in my file. But I took 6 kids, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, every year, every age, and drew their hand on a piece of paper and stapled them together by size or by age and sent them to him. And he made the very first junior gloves. So we made the first junior clubs. And I put a little small training grip on it so they can put their hands right in the slot. Nobody had that. That's the hardest thing to teach them. Well, it takes us about 15 seconds to put their hands on a glove. Otherwise, it'll take you about 20 years. We do a spring break camp, which is going on right now. We do every week of the year, we do an after school camp, which I do lessons on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, some private lessons on certain days, but we literally teach every evening after school. They're open to all juniors between 5 years old and 17. So we start them putting, and then we start them chipping, and then we start them hitting the irons, and then we do the driver. I tell them, once they understand it, I say, do you understand it? They go, yeah, my line is, well, it takes 1 million balls. First guy to 1 million is gonna win. It's been my dream, that's why I started it. I never realized it'd be this successful, but I started with, we've had maybe over 10,000 kids that we're running through our camps. Well, I've had 23 state champions, and they rated us #1 in the country. And so that gives me a lot of success. There's 10,000 other kids that haven't won the state championship, but they at least know how to play golf. But I'd have never played if it hadn't been for the blessing that we were going to amputate my leg.
Jim's place is so great, and he's right. There was a day when golfers didn't like having kids or beginners on the course. Big meanie pantses.
For lessons, par 3 play, or more info about their youth golf camps, visit littlelinks.com to learn more.
Man, just once, I'd love to have a hole-in-one.
Not to be mean or anything, but I kind of hope you don't.
Why would you say something like that?
Because that's a story we'd never hear the end of. Like your first home run in Little League.
Oh, that was an awesome day. The sun was shining as the whole town gathered after the parade for opening day.
Yeah, let me stop you right there and invite everyone to come back for more Explore Tulsa and a visit to Happy Hands when we return. You can finish your story now.
It was 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Our most beautiful 4K HDR TV. Easily manage your cables for even a clean rear look. It hangs flat on the wall, just like a piece of art. Yet its slimness creates astounding images. Experience new discoveries with Android TV by getting instant access to everything you need. Introducing the latest Sony 4K HDR TV.
Hello, I'm Russ Kirkpatrick with Kirkpatrick and Kinslow Productions, and you are watching Explore Tulsa.
Hello and welcome back for more Explore Tulsa. Now Stevie, did you ever try to learn sign language?
Well, in Boy Scouts, I learned how to sign my name. Let me see if I can remember. It's S-T-E-V-I-E. I think I got it right.
Yeah, not bad, but it might take a while for you to introduce yourself to a whole room full of people though.
When I was a kid, they didn't have places like Happy Hands.
Ooh, they do amazing work, and they're not just using sign language to help kids either. Happy Hands finds what works best for each individual child.
We know that that first year of life is foundational for learning language, and we don't want to miss that. So Happy Hands was born, incorporated in 1993, and the doors opened in 1994. Well, the history of how Happy Hands began has a lot to do with the founder, Al Pro, who was an interpreter in the area as well as a pastor at a deaf church. And through his experiences working with deaf adults, he began to really understand the illiteracy issues with the deaf adult population. In Al's experience as a pastor, he was very frustrated that his deaf congregation wanted to read the Bible, but they couldn't. And he knew that that was very important for them to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. On the interpreting side of it, he spent more of his time explaining terms and language that was on applications or in job training or in medical situations, explaining the vocabulary and the language to the deaf person than actually interpreting. And so through his asking questions of professionals, doing some research on his own, getting to know educators in the field, God gave him that vision for starting an early childhood center. To serve children that have a hearing loss, we start just like you would start with any baby. We communicate with them. Babies learn to communicate first through eye gaze, through those loving bonding moments, and we add sign language to that. So in all their daily care routines, when they're getting their diaper changed, when they're being fed, when we're playing with them on the floor, we're providing auditory and visual language. Baby Signs is very helpful, very popular. It's popular with many families that have young children that don't experience deafness because their children can begin to communicate with them earlier. Instead of crying about being hungry, they can say, you know, they want to eat, or say their bottle, or if they want mommy or daddy, they can sign that. And so the frustration level is a lot lower in those children, and the language grows a lot faster. For those of us that are adults, learning a new language can be difficult, but when there's the motivation of communicating with your child, they learn it. In this facility, we have some amazing helps in teaching deaf and hard of hearing children. We wanted to make sure that there was a lot of natural light in the classrooms, so we have a lot of windows and light coming in from the ceiling. Every classroom also has an FM system where the teacher wears a microphone and the child has a receiver that's hooked onto their hearing aid, so they get the signal directly from the teacher's voice directly into their ears for whatever hearing they have left. We also have a sound field system in every classroom, again through the teacher's microphone. Her voice is delivered evenly throughout the classroom. For those that may be using a different type of hearing device, or those that maybe are using a cochlear implant, so that they get a good signal in the classroom. And then everything being visual. We're signing, we're using picture schedules, picture vocabulary. You know, these kids are, when they're babies, they're not reading yet, but we're already starting to fingerspell and to show print, because this is something that their brain needs to get used to early. And we see that through fingerspelling, by actually spelling the words, they begin to see the phonemes, whereas a hearing child would hear the phonological differences, a deaf child would see cat, bat, hat, and they're going to see the similarities where another child would hear it. So lots of techniques and things within the building, physical aspects of the building, that help a deaf and hard of hearing child. I see children that started here that are now in college pursuing their dreams, their careers. They're doing college level work and they're being successful. They're able to be a part of the community rather than be dependent on the community. And that's so important for all of us. For me, it's the best thing I can think of. I know that someday I get to retire and say, yay, we did it. We did it.
The folks at Happy Hands are the greatest ever, and I can't wait for Rachel Coleman from Signing with Time to come to town for their big show.
If you'd like to learn more about Happy Hands or get tickets to Signing with Time at the Mabee Center Saturday, April 2nd, then visit happyhands.org to get your tickets.
After the show, I think it'd be a good idea to get outdoors and enjoy more of the spring season with some time out fishing.
If that's what you have in mind, then you're going to need a great lure, like the kind Chris Lindenberg and his crew make at Larew Lures.
Our next stop is Fisherman's Dream when we come back with more Explore Tulsa.
John Erling with Voices of Oklahoma. Our great state has been home to countless individuals whose place in history has been earned through each of their many accomplishments. Voices of Oklahoma's mission is to preserve their story in an oral history presentation like none other. Accounts direct from famous Oklahomans, political figures, and many others who have left their indelible mark on the development, history, and future of Oklahoma. So please, treat yourself by listening to those who are the voices of Oklahoma.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson with Expo Square and the Tulsa State Fair, and you're watching Explore Tulsa.
Oh, it's so great to enjoy a wonderful spring day with Explore Tulsa. And before you know it, it'll be National Fishing Day.
Well, that's not until June 18th, but it's always best to be prepared.
I was really never that great at fishing.
Yeah, let me guess. You couldn't keep quiet long enough and kept chasing the fish away.
Hardy har har. No, it's because I never was very good at making fishing lures.
Oh, not a problem, because right here in Tulsa, Larew Lures makes some of the best in the fishing game.
Larew and Bobby Garland, they're the two of the biggest names in soft plastic innovation in fishing lures in the history of fishing. So we're real proud of having both of those names, as part of our company. Just anywhere you could find water, there might be a fish. That's where I would try to go find with my one rod and reel. All you do is pond jump, and I ran around Creek County and all over Tulsa County, the strip pits over in Broken Arrow. Actually, we had a little place on Grand Lake that we had 35 years ago. Both of them, both my daughter and son were raised right there. I've got a picture of him, 2-year-old. He's holding up a bass, on the dock. And my daughter, when she was 4, when we would clean fish, she had to hold every fish and hand it to us before we could clean it. So yeah, they got into it at a very early age. It turned out we acquired Bobby Garland Custom Baits, and the crappie lures that we came up with became very popular, and now they're extremely popular after 9 years and coming out with new products every year. But I think Bobby Garland, basically, there's a lot of crappie fishermen out there, and there's more and more today than there were 20 years ago. Today you can also crappie fish and you get to take them home. So it's that old saying of, what are you fishing for? And I'm fishing for dinner. Obviously, the easier it is to fish a lure, the easier it is to catch a fish. And we have, a lure called a biffle bug and a hardhead, which all you have to do is cast it out and retrieve it back in. Just bring it back in and just hit the rocks. Now, you can't get much more simple than that. And it's been very successful, but it's been very successful because a lot of people have learned how to fish it with no difficulties. It's not like jigging or worming or trying to feel. You just cast it out there and reel it back in and cast it again, and you'll feel the fish hit. So the easier the technique is, obviously the more people will try it. And several people have told me that they've caught their first fish or their biggest fish doing that, but it's a fish catcher. We start from scratch with a new idea and a new concept of something that is lacking out there that we think is going to have a lot of action and be a fish attractant. So we talk to our pro staffers, we get ideas, we'll get solder guns, we'll cut legs off, we'll do all kinds of stuff, Frankenstein, basically a body, and get a look for it. And then basically you draw it out, and then we'll send it off to a mold maker, and they'll do an AutoCAD print of it, and then we'll get a prototype mold. And once you make a dozen or 2 dozen and you take them into the swimming pool, or you take them to see what kind of action they have, or they're running the right way and they're steady and that. Once we decide on what we're going to do it, then we commission the production mold. And then the production mold may be 2.5 feet tall and 16 inches wide and hold multi-cavities to go on our machines. Eli, our manager here, he's the one that came up with Sooner Run for Tommy's biffle bug color. And there's only one I've ever named, and it was a crappie bait baby shad with kind of purple and a lot of silver glitter in it, and it's real sparkly. And I looked at it and I said Vegas. I mean, it just reminded me of Vegas colors. And so that stuck, but that's the only one I've ever named out of all the names, and we probably have 2,000 names. We're proud of being here in Tulsa and that our product's made here, and we ship all over the United States, and then we ship all over the world too. So it's been quite a nine-year ride, to say the least, but it's been successful. That's the good part.
I asked Chris to make a lure and call it the Trish. It'd be really pretty, and it sneaks up and catches a fish.
Thanks, I'm flattered. If you're a fisherman wanting to see what all they offer, visit JeanLarew.com or look for their lures at all Bass Pros and many Walmarts.
You probably won't find any at QuikTrip though.
Probably not, but Chester Cadieux spent a lifetime making everything else very convenient for many Tulsans.
And coming up, we're going to remember Mr. Cadieux with a portion of an interview he did with John Erling on Voices of Oklahoma when we return with more Explore Tulsa.
Have you outgrown your home entertainment system? Then it's time to step up with Video Revolution and Sony for the ultimate 4K home theater experience. Size does matter when it comes to the quality and enjoyment that you get from a home entertainment system. Engineered by the experts at Video Revolution on the northwest corner of 71st and Lewis.
Hey, it's Stevie from Explore Tulsa with my friend and optometrist for many years, Dr. Robert Zellner. Tell everybody why it's so good to come in to see you.
Well, that's a great question. Let's see, we've got 2 great locations. We try to stay cutting edge at every point along the way because let's face it, everybody wants to come in and get taken care of in a timely fashion and get the latest, greatest stuff and save some money and get on with their life and see clearly.
And if you don't believe it, look on the website.
Absolutely, drzellner.com. You can find that we have our 2 locations at 69th and Memorial and 3030 South Harvard, or you can give us a call at 749-2020 or 461-2020.
And I got 4 kids, and I got to tell you, as a big family like that, it's affordable too.
Oh yes, and of course, the number one reason, you save some money. I mean, with our 2-pair specials, with our different unique packages that we put together, I mean, you can come in here and your money can go a lot farther than anywhere else.
And that's why with Dr. Robert Zellner and Associates, seeing is believing.
Oh, I like that, Stevie. Well done.
Good to see you back with us for more Explore Tulsa. If you've lived in Tulsa for any length of time, you probably have a family member or a friend that has worked at QuikTrip.
That's true, Stevie. Now, who do you know?
Well, my father-in-law actually worked at the first store.
Wow.
Not trying to date you, Dad. Also, my son did one summer, and then my stepdaughter still does.
When Video Revolution was located at 56 in Lewis, that too used to be a QuikTrip at one time.
And with Voices of Oklahoma's John Erling, we hear Mr. Cadieux tell the story of QuikTrip's beginnings.
Well, for our interview with Chester Cadieux and the story of QuikTrip, we met in their corporate offices in their beautiful campus in East Tulsa. It's very, very nice. And when you see that campus, and then you listen to Chester talk about how it all began, I mean, it really becomes a pretty amazing story. And the story begins with Chester's friend, Bert Holmes. And remember now, at the time, Chester is chasing all over town as a printing salesman.
Well, Bert Holmes and I, Bert Holmes started QuikTrip. I mean, he had raised some money. He had asked 2 or 3 other people if they would like to be the president of QuikTrip and work the night shift and, get started and all that sort of thing. And all of them had better jobs than I did, and they didn't want to do that. And I just jumped on it. I mean, it was because I had these rules. I had the rules that it had to be simple because I didn't know anything. Had to be low cost because I didn't have any money. And I didn't like competition because if you're a printing salesman, everybody in the world had a printing press in their garage. I mean, that was a dog-eat-dog business, and I didn't want to get into something that, that was real tough competition because you couldn't survive. And here comes Bert. Duh. But at least it wasn't dirty,
And that's when he said you can get in for $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and I talked to my dad, and my dad, he thought I was crazy, but he loaned me $5,000.
Well, now, today, we see all the state-of-the-art QuikTrip convenience stores in our town. But I'm telling you, that's been a journey over time. And what I want you to do is listen to Chester talk about the very first QuikTrip store. It was in 1958, and it was located at 53rd and Peoria.
It was horrible. We had used fixtures because that was cheap. We had used frozen food boxes that Birdseye must have invented. I mean, they were clank, 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 clank. They were they were terrible. The whole store was terrible. The cooler was too small. It was a joke. It was a fairly good location over time because that was sort of the end of Tulsa. There were some stores out beyond there, and I'd worked that area as a Fuller brush man. But it was really slow. And they closed the road in front of the store going into winter, which is the wrong time of year.
Well, anyone living in Tulsa in the 70s will surely remember QuikTrip and their advertising campaign. I mean, it featured a dog, and the dog's name was Lamar. And Lamar became a name in town. I mean, he'd be invited into schools, into bars, presentations of all kinds. And you'll recall that in the TV commercial, he would ride in a pickup. And so Chester tells us about Lamar.
Well, it was just fun, and the cowboy always had Lamar with him in his pickup truck. And Lamar couldn't go in the store, but he'd get Lamar a sandwich. And he always talked about QuikTrip to Lamar, and then he'd say, "Ain't that right, Lamar?" And Lamar would go, "Woof!" And this was this shaggy dog who wasn't a breed. He was a shaggy dog. People loved Lamar, and they loved the cowboy. He was a great dog and smart. He was smart, and he had a trainer in New York. He did a lot of commercials. He did dog food, he did soap, he did all sorts of stuff.
Now, of course, QuikTrip is a great neighbor, as everybody knows, to our community, and they made major investments in Tulsa, where it all began. And then they have given liberally back to this town, which has been so good to them. And one of those investments, many of us drive by every single day, is at 41st and Riverside Drive.
Your QuikTrip Park, I will call it, at 41st and Riverside. Such a nice spread there and highly used. You've seen it. I've seen it myself.
I've been blown away by the way it's been used. And
I've taken my granddaughter there several times.
Yeah.
Probably used more than maybe you anticipated. It seemed to me the parking lot's always full.
It is. But we knew fountains worked. We knew that kids running through fountains and so forth was fun. And I used to have to run through a sprinkler, so you don't think how much.
Right. What a ride it's been for you.
Yeah. It's better to be lucky than smart.
Better to be lucky than smart? Well, in the case of QuikTrip, it's been both luck and a lot of smarts that has made this company grow. And QuikTrip, as you know, has been recognized as one of Fortune magazine's 100 best companies to work for since 2003. All of us here in Tulsa are very, very proud of QuikTrip.
Can you imagine a $5,000 investment turning into a convenience store empire that includes 700 QuikTrip stores in 11 states?
Plus, QuikTrip has made Fortune 500's Best Place to Work list for 14 years straight.
And it'll probably keep doing it too, because Mr. Cadieux's son, Chet, is the company's CEO, and everyone I know that works there thinks he's as great as his dad.
If you'd like to listen to the rest of John Erling's interview with Chester Cadieux, visit voicesofoklahoma.com.
While you do, I think I'm going to go grab me a slice of QuikTrip pizza.
Stick around. There's more Explore Tulsa just ahead.
Hi, Dr. Robert Zellner here. For over 20 years, I've offered affordable, convenient eye care in Tulsa. Right now, you can get one pair of glasses or contact lenses starting at just $99, or my two-pair deal for $129. Hey, and as always, the eye exam's included. Walk-ins are always welcome. Glasses are ready in about an hour. Plus, we have over 2,000 frames to choose from. We're open 7 days a week. Come see why we're voted Tulsa's best. And our drive-thru at 69th and Memorial makes pickup simple and easy. For the best eye care value in Tulsa, Dr. Robert Zellner and Associates.
Be sure and join us next week when we meet Oklahoma's First Lady Sports Talk show host, Lauren Rue.
Special thanks to Little Links Golf Club owner Jim Ingram for sharing his story behind his love for the game of golf.
Well, thanks too to Jan Pride and her staff at Happy Hands for helping kids and families all over Tulsa. And thanks to Chris Lindberg for sharing his fishing secrets with us at Jean Leroy Lures.
Also, thanks to John Erling for sharing his Voices of Oklahoma interview with Chester Cadieux with us.
Remember, if you miss any of the show, you can always catch us at exploretulsa.com.
As always, each week we feature the people, places, and attractions that make us proud to call Tulsa our home.
Hey, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Share with us someone you think Tulsa should know more about.
Plus, remember, Explore Tulsa is brought to you by Video Revolution, located on the northwest corner of 71st and Lewis.
Stop by, say hello to Ron and all the guys for all your home entertainment needs.
And Explore Tulsa is also proudly brought to you by Dr. Robert Zollner and Associates.
Home of the two-pair deal starting at just $99 with 2 locations, 3030 South Harvard and 69th and Memorial.
Well, that's all the time we have for you on this week's show, but we'll see you next week right here on Explore Tulsa.